And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Welcome to the Dice Tower!
Yes, welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Holly. And today we're talking about a game that is derived from one of the most popular games there is, Monopoly. Most people know how to play Monopoly. Well, here's a smaller version of the game called Monopoly Town. This game uses a card to move around and pieces and money and has the properties just like Monopoly. But what are the differences? Well, to do that, first of all, let's look and see what the game looks like. All right, here's basically what the board looks like. It looks kind of like the Monopoly Town. I mean, you see the same colors that you would in the original game, all the way up to the dark blues, like Boardwalk and Park Place. No names in this game, just colors, and on each color is a number from 1 to 4. There's also 2 spots for chance, free parking, and then go. Basically, though, the most important part of this game is Mr. Monopoly, who's driving in a car around the track. You can manually move him, but there's different bumps so that the computer basically knows which space he's at. When you turn him on, he will make a voice like that. You can actually hold his head down for 3 seconds, and he will give you a rundown of the rules. Other than that, though, you simply do what he says. For example, here he said move 5 spaces. So I move him, and he counts while you move. Once I land on a space, and he'll honk the horn when you land on a space, you take one of the building blocks that you have and place it on that space. Now, each player starts with 10 of these building blocks. They fit together like Legos, and each player also has 5 roofs. These roofs are whatever color you want. You look at the number there. If you're the person who put the 4th one there, since this is a number 4, let's say there was already 3 there. If I put the 4th one on top, I would then get to put a roof on top, and that would be my building. If another player like Holly landed there, she would then have to pay me money equal to the height of that building. So she would have to pay me $4. Now it's your turn to move. Press his head. It's very simple. You just press his head. So move him 3 spaces.
1, 2, 3.
Whenever you pass go, everyone gets $2, and you start with 6 of these dollars. Dollars are used simply to pay other players' rent, or if you run out of the 10 blocks that you start the game with, you can buy more blocks on a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, the card does know if you go too far. So let's say I move him 8 spaces.
4, 5. Slow down. Go back 3 spaces.
Now, what you just witnessed was actually a glitch in the game. Sometimes he doesn't know where you've gone or how far you've gone. I went way more than 8 spaces there, and occasionally we would go exactly where we were supposed to go. I'm turning him off. Sometimes we would go exactly where he was supposed to go, and yet the computer read it wrong. It's mostly how you move it. If you move him 1, 2, 3, like that, turn off. If you move him just 1, 2, 3 spaces at a time, then he will usually work properly. But if you try to ride him smoothly, sometimes it will mess up. It will also tell you if you haven't gone far enough. When you land on chance, some random thing might happen. You might get some money. You won first prize in the beauty contest, get some money and such. But basically, the game will continue until one person gets out all 5 of their roofs, and then they get to put out their golden roof. When they put out their golden roof, they are then the winners of the game. Now, the game itself is interesting. The children like putting the blocks on. They like putting their own roofs on. The idea of paying rent to each other is kind of a mindless thing. It's not going to send someone into bankruptcy, and it's fun to give each other money back and forth. It's fun to move the car. There are a few problems with the game. One is a little bit of mechanical glitch that I mentioned earlier. That's not that big of a deal. Another is really, it's just kind of a wild luck swing. I mean, you can move the car, and it seems like it does a pretty random job, but I've often seen in a 4-player game, one person just doesn't get as many roofs as the others. They keep landing on other people's houses for rent, and there's not a whole lot you can do with that. In Monopoly, you can mitigate your luck by trading your properties with one another. That's not here. And so it's really lucky. Adults are going to despise the game because it's just, you go how far the guy tells you to go. There's nothing you can do for or against it. The idea of him being electronic is a good one, but then the money itself, it's okay, but there's such a giant influx of money. Every time you go by Go, everyone gets more money. You're always paying each other back and forth, and you pay $1 for another building block, but you'll need maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of those during the course of a game, unless it's a 2-player game, and it just seems like there's so much money in a game that money becomes pointless. Now, maybe that's good for kids because they won't run out of money. And I'm glad that they don't have bankruptcy in this and driving someone out of business. But just, I wish there was a little more. Then finally, the last thing, and I'm really not fond of the game, is it's really a pain to put away. This is the game itself. This is the box. The game is not going to fit in the box unless I take it apart. To take it apart, I'm going to have to unsnap all these pieces, put them back in the box, and then figure out somehow to get all these pieces back in. And because there's a hole here in the front where you can press Mr. Monopoly's button, pieces are going to fall out. It's just not a very good setup. I'm going to have to leave it like this sitting on a shelf somewhere because I don't want to have to snap the thing together every time. And that's a minor complaint because I have other games that are big and take up space. But really, I was just looking for a little bit more than this. On the flip side, my daughters like pressing the guy's head. They like moving it around. They like selling and trading. But invariably, one of them's not happy because they are just getting unlucky rolls compared to the other players. So it's a nice idea. It just doesn't work in the long run. I don't think this is worth getting for kids. I think you're better off getting something like Monopoly Junior or just getting a different kids game. It's an interesting idea. They'll have fun moving the car and hearing the electronic voice, but the game itself doesn't pass scrutiny.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.